And yes, all of the many people that are here. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then if you'll continue standing, and tonight's invocation will be brought by Reverend Charles Grant from the Bonner Springs United Methodist Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, as we gather as the City Council of Bonner Springs, Kansas, we invite you to be present and to guide us in all the decisions and discussions that will be taking place this evening as we make the transition from the school year into the summertime, as the children and youth will be out of school and more on the streets and into various activities, and as other things will be taking place as we change the tempo of life during this season, we pray that you will watch over our community and all of our residents, all of our visitors, all of our inhabitants. Keep us safe. Keep our first responders safe. May the programs that we have in effect be helpful to our community. Safeguard them, improve their physical stamina, improve their mental abilities, improve their outreach and love for one another. We ask you to forgive us for your failures that we often make, but guide us and strengthen us and empower us. For all this we pray in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles.
I appreciate it, but you don't have to stay. You can stay as long as you
I
like.
won't stay very long.
But you're welcome. You're welcome to, but yes, I know.
This way you'll have an audience of at least 2 weeks.
Oh, we can talk for a long time without anybody to listen. It is being recorded and played later on our website. So, moving right along, will be the first item on tonight's agenda, which is the citizens' concerns about items not on today's agenda, anything that they'd like to bring up, and seeing how there are none, we'll move right along to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda this evening includes minutes from the May 14th, 2018 meeting, the claims for city operation, Public Housing Authority claims, All Stars Core Program, public use request by Farmers Market, the electronic payroll system, and the Bonner Springs Animal Control SPCA contract. Is there anything to be pulled by the staff? Nothing by the citizens. Anything to be pulled by the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd appreciate to pull E.
All right. Farmers Market public public use request. Anything else?
And then also if we can pull item G, Bonner Springs Animal Control SPCA contract.
Very fine. Pulled. And we'll go ahead and consider a motion concerning items A, B, C, D, and F.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to have the consent agenda to include just A, B, C, D, E, and not E, A, B, C, D, and F.
Very good. So moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments concerning those on the consent agenda remaining? Seeing none, vote please.
Thompson?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. Going back to consent agenda item E, which is the public use request for the farmers market. Let's get the action requested is to make a motion to approve the public use request by the Bonner Springs Farmers Market for use of 2 rows of parking in the parking lot behind 300 Oak Street on Thursday evenings in June and July. There was a little bit of confusion for me in the electronic agenda. Is there a staff presentation that might clear this all up?
Yes. It's actually the area behind 200 Oak Street, and it'll be all the way over on the map to the far east-west side of the lot. It'll be the row closest to the curb there, and then allow for a drive, and either just all along the curb, or a few vendors might be over in that other area, but it would allow for a drive through there or around there in order to make sure that the parking up front is available for those who need accessible parking. And then food trucks were requested to be allowed to park along Elm Street outside of the parking lot.
But that's,
Public spaces there.
And they were, the food trucks were requested by the farmer's market to be a part of the farmer's market. Now, the vendor market area that you're talking about is in this green box that was on our electronic agenda. And it's basically the first row and maybe the row that would angle the opposite direction right across from it. And significantly away from the band stand, not right up to the corner of the bandstand. So they're leaving parking there. On band concert nights, I know that there is the majority of that entire parking lot is used, just for informational purposes, and that will push additional parking up into that area. That's why I was wondering about the 200. Anything else?
Amber,
start
on this,
Did you get a motion on it?
We'll need a motion to discuss.
okay, make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Your motion is to approve?
No.
Can't make a motion to discuss. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Now we have a motion on the floor that's been made in a positive manner, and we're open for discussion, and you can start.
Okay. First off, I'm not against food trucks or farmers market at all. I want that understood. My concern is that there's nothing specified as to the time duration that those trucks will be there in regard, there being food truck, in regard to the nonprofit groups, churches, scouts, and everything else that have ice cream socials. Now, are these trucks to be there after 8 o'clock at night, or are they going to continue to be there during the band concert, which would definitely conflict with the ice cream socials?
They could be there. The only part of this that needs council approval is the part in the parking lot, because the band already requests that. But the street is public parking, and as long as they're not blocking the street, then they're welcome to park there.
So they would still be, yeah, they can park there, but they can also sell?
Yeah.
So your concern is with the competition between the
Absolutely.
food trucks and the
Absolutely.
nonprofit groups with the ice cream social? Do you have any information as to when the food trucks and what they were coming? Are they going to be there before?
I don't think any have been confirmed yet. It's just a possibility that they wanted to have available. None have come forward yet.
Is there any way, because of the nonprofit groups, if this has been something that's been going on for many, many, many years, that they would be, they're more than welcome to be there, but when the band concert starts, that they can no longer sell any items from their trucks? Because that would definitely be in conflict. And honestly, Amber, if I have to choose, I'm choosing for the nonprofit organizations. Nothing against farmers market or anything else, but I think that would be absolutely unfair.
I think what you would need to do is block off that parking there specifically for band concert parking, because it's public parking, so the food trucks don't need permission to park there or sell there, because they wouldn't be blocking any public street. It's a public parking space, so they're welcome to park in public.
And if they weren't able to park there on Cedar, they could park over on Oak, they could park on Second Street, they could park, on down Second Street or wherever. So the issue is the competition, not necessarily their placement.
Oh, yeah.
And how they impact the city band concert, which we're also very protective of, the band concert and that ambiance, as well as the ice cream social and that amenity, as well as our farmers market and what that has brought. And it sounds like having the vendors there is an attempt to try and grow all of that. And the food trucks sounds like, although there's none signed or contracted, that is growing out of that, trying to create that sense of community and ambiance. I don't know if that's exactly the right place for them either, but they're trying to figure it out like everybody else.
This makes it very difficult. And all that I would ask is the fact that, not to interfere with farmers market, the time that they're there, great. But when the band concert starts, that they would not be eligible to sell at that particular point, because that would be could be in direct competition. Not that would be their their thought process or anything.
If it was a pizza food truck or a hamburger barbecue or something like that, you see there's so many different kinds of food truck. The main competition for the ice cream social would be ice cream floats and homemade pies and cakes. But there's a lot of other food trucks. I don't know if that makes a difference on what kind of food truck it is to you.
Yes.
Is this just open?
May I?
Let's start coming right down this way. Mr. Mackey.
I was going to say, I am all for local business. I mean, I are one. I know we can't really impede it, and to try and legislate killing any style of business, I'm never really quite for. To the counter of that, I totally support the band thing and the organizations. My thought or kind of question on it was, is there something we could do that would allow them to still operate but implement, like we've done with the TIFs and stuff, could we have a 1% tax on moving food trucks or movable restaurateurs or things like that? And also, could we make sure that there's an ordinance that they have they are a registered Bonner license holder as well?
They already have to have a permit to do business in Bonner Springs,
Okay.
no matter where they set up
Okay.
or at any event.
And what about just to differentiate, because I got tons and tons of calls, it's a little frustrating that nobody's here, but I did get quite a few calls and people approaching me while I was working on a house today, and they mentioned it to me. And as I said, being a local business person, I would never want to be legislated out of being able to operate, but I don't see a problem in charging, say, like a 1% sales tax for trucks and then donating or having that money go directly to the organization of the band group itself or something along those lines. Is there something we could do to do that?
I don't know of any vehicle at the present time that you'd be able to do that
Mr. Mayor?
legally. Yes,
Can I
please.
just make a point of clarity? You're not approving the use of the food trucks or the use of the street. You're
Right.
approving strictly the use of that parking lot, which is only the vendor, the farmer's market vendors.
On Thursday nights.
Right. So I just want to make that point that the food truck issue is a non-issue as far as this item is concerned. It is related specifically to the use of that parking lot by the farmer's market vendors. Just want to make that clear for everybody.
Very good. All right, and the other issue we can take up with the farmers market people concerning food trucks.
Yeah, I think
Later.
that the topic of competition is something that obviously the applicant is here today. It's something that we can relate to them in terms of the council's consideration and concern for the nonprofit function of the city band council and how that impacted by vendors with food trucks.
Yeah, we had great pushback by anybody that was aware of it.
Yeah,
At least, I mean, I would presume Mr. Shannon did as well.
yeah.
Very good. Sir? Ann?
My understanding was that Farmers Market was going to close down before the band concert happened. The two vendors were going to, or the 2 rows of vendors, and it was my understanding that the only thing was Farmers Market in this whole thing. And it's just amazed me that the trucks have suddenly come up and been, because the whole issue was those 2 rows of parking which are near the plug-in units and the vendors that have been Farmers Market.
Because it gets dark down there by the time the band concert starts. Most of the time it's pretty dark.
But we were going to be out of there. Our
Right,
vendors were
yeah,
going
it's hard
be out
to
of there
sell
by the
produce when
time
it's
that-
dark.
That would be my only suggestion, is that it's a restricted time frame, perhaps. Obviously,
Yeah.
the issue being getting people in and out. You have people that are utilizing that parking lot for the band concert, but you're also having vendors exit out of that parking lot, and that kind of cluster that could create. So that might be something for you all to consider, is at least restricting the time or the exact placement of where vendors are going to be placed.
So there's no mention of time. The exact position is indicated, and if there's a concern with traffic safety, we'll hear about that from our public safety officials, and we'll review this at a future date if there is a concern. Anything else?
I do fully appreciate Mr. Shannon's position on that, and I agree with him from the standpoint the band concerts, the ice cream social as part of it, has been a kind of a community gathering, but it is thing, can we restrict it? And that's the problem we run into. I think Mr. Mackey pointed out very well. My bigger concern is the number of parking. I think that's what you're talking about, the number of space it's taking, because that parking lot fills up on band nights. And my concern is having a large number of spaces taken up, reserved for the vendors, I think would be an issue.
Well, and that was my point of mentioning the payment to.
I mean, if they were shut down and cleared in plenty of time for people to come in and park, it'd be one thing, but that's, my fear is they'll run up till, 8 o'clock, and the next thing you know, you got people trying to come in at the same time they're trying to dismantle, and I think.
We also have Project Creep too. I mean, they're going to be there at one time, and then the next weekend's going to be okay, and then.
I got to finish this last sale.
Is there any outlets further, I'm trying to be further west, going up?
I don't believe those are functional. There have been 2 poles in the back side of that parking lot that have had electrical service on it. And I believe only the pole nearest, which is still a long ways away from the band stand, has electrical service to it right now. The one that's farther away, about a third of the way up the parking lot, again, I don't believe has electrical service to it.
Could we install that and then charge a nightly fee for it, or a use fee?
Anything could be done, but I know it's expensive to get those things done.
I know it's roughly $1,000 to get the hookups, or implemented, or at least it has been up at Price Chopper. I know that the snow cone stand did it a year or 2 ago. That's just a suggestion.
Yep,
Just
but
throwing it out.
I know it's expensive, so
Yeah.
it's something to look into for the future. Sir, do you have anything?
So I'm taking it that the plan is possibly to make sure that farmer's market is done maybe a half an hour ahead of time before the band
There isn't a,
starts? or
that isn't a part of the request right now. The request is just for the farmer's market to use 2 rows of the parking lot for farmer's market activities on that evening. But I think if we have a safety concern at the activity, which starts June 7th, which is a week from 2 nights from now, we'll have to review this whole situation and either
Mine
take.
wasn't a safety concern, it was just concern for the ice cream social, getting them to
Do you have something to add?
operate as usual and being able to expect the same amount of business contributors, et cetera, to that. And I think that possibly if the food vendors are there and they're selling whatever, that could still be something that would take away from the ice cream social, because people could go over there. If given a choice, some people are going to do something.
So the band concert starts at 8:30, and most people arrive for the band concert about 8, a little bit after. And so if they were to be done with this farmers market vendors area by 8 o'clock, they would miss the majority of the people that are coming, and they would be leaving as everyone else is arriving. So I would say, I don't know what the farmers market people are, you're a farmers market person?
I am, I'm so sorry I'm late.
And your name?
Cassandra Long.
Cassandra, we're considering this request for the use of the public parking lot on Thursday night, 2 rows for the vendors at the market. And we have some concerns. One is that from the picture we received, that area is going to be some distance away from the bandstand, down the parking lot. We're concerned with a conflict with the farmers market and the band concert, as well as there was mention of food trucks, which I understand are not a part of this request, but were rumored to be coming and be on the city street right behind that, which we can't restrict because that's a commercial business and they have public licenses, city licenses. However, we're also very concerned with the impact on the ice cream socials that the philanthropic organizations do. And we didn't want to negatively impact that. If there was a big ice cream truck coming and pulling up and nobody buys ice cream socials. So I know that's important to you and your people too. We're concerned with the traffic and the parking for the band concert. We know that on band concert nights, that parking lot pretty much fills up. Have you considered that?
We have, and we've also taken into consideration, I mean, we definitely don't want to take away from the ice cream social and the funds that are being raised for charitable organizations. So I think that, we've taken that into consideration. We're more trying to get more people to come out for that event, get more people in the community out for that event, as well as get them to come and buy more fresh food and vegetables. If it's a concern of maybe having our baked good vendors there, I mean, we can talk about maybe having them not be there on those nights, just our fruits and vegetables, or anything along those lines. As far as traffic is concerned, I mean, we wouldn't take up as much space as we normally would on a Saturday, so just a smaller segment, and we can squeeze our vendors all together to make room for that.
Would you be, would you be possibly entertaining the idea that after a certain hour that the vendors would not selling anything because of a possible conflict with the ice cream socials and stuff?
Yes, absolutely. We would entertain that. We get, some time in before or during. Really, we're throwing around the times, trying to figure out what would work best so that we weren't competing directly with the ice cream social or getting in the way of people trying to get to the city band concert. So
Good.
We're open to whatever times are going to work for that event.
Yeah, answered my question.
Yep, mine too.
Very good. Sounds like it's a work in progress. Seeing no other questions? Vote, please.
Before we do that, the motion that's out there at the current time, though, I would not want to vote for that motion, just because it does not contain anything language for a time constraint, for an ending time, which means if we pass it as it is right now, that means they can be there till 8:30, 9 o'clock. And I'd like to have it actually in the motion itself.
You made the motion, right?
Make the motion?
Would you consider making a friendly amendment to your motion? Is
I'd
that,
be more than happy to make an amendment.
huh? What?
I'll need it withdrawn in a new motion.
Oh, okay.
I will withdraw my motion.
Second.
And the second was withdrawn?
No, who made the second, though?
Yes.
Yes, the second's withdrawn?
did, yeah.
Okay, and then we would consider a new motion? Yep. I'd consider that if you're wanting to make
I
it.
will make a motion to allow the public use request for the farmer's market for those parking spaces. The concern is that, before I finish the motion, is the time, because I know there's going to be just, time that's going to take for them to take apart everything they've set up and for those vendors to remove. I'd like to have it end as of 7:30.
Second.
All righty. Since we have a new motion and second on the floor, let's start down here with any additional comments concerning this motion.
Does that work?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We'll work with whatever is going to work for you.
Okay. My question answered.
Anything else?
Is that taking up all 16 spaces or just the 8? From the picture, it's kind of like it's dipping into those other ones, but I didn't know, you said 2 rows. Is that the center lane plus the lanes plus the spots, or just the center lane and the 8?
I don't think at this time they have enough vendors to go over into that secondary area.
The middle?
They could probably, I think they could probably squeeze them all against the curb.
I would agree with that.
But I assume they'll be blocking the drive-through area, though, for pedestrians to be walking.
I just didn't know if cars
I would
could
imagine
I didn't know
not.
if cars could park on the other side, these right here. Can they park there still, and then the center lane's open for pedestrians, and then their booths are there?
That's
Or
what
are we
I'm-
losing all those too? I just didn't.
They asked for 2 rows, which would be both those areas. That works pretty good when you do that. Both sides, this side and that side. However, the picture doesn't include that side in the middle. And from what they just mentioned is they only think they'll have enough vendors to participate and take up these parking spots. Tom made mention that he thought that would impact the driving surface, and from the farmers market vendors' placement on Saturday mornings, the drive is open for visitors to walk down, and the vendors are wholly in those parking spaces. So if they would stay there, yes, they would have people walking and potentially driving into these parking spaces. So there's that concern, but
I think it'll have
Please.
a net benefit to bringing more people to the band. So, I think people will find parking. If we're only talking 8, 10 cars, they'll figure it out. But I think it'll, hopefully boost and get more ice cream social money and do that. So I'm all for it.
Actually, I think the point is there should be 2 green lines with a gray line in the middle. Because they always leave openings, and there's no problem with the walking through. So I think it's the way that this came, like there's a green thing like this, when there ought to be a green thing here and a green thing here.
very good.
Now, I think this is a good problem that we're having. We're trying to do things, and if I understand right, the reason you're wanting to do this on that night is just to expand more things that were, and I would agree with the restrictions. We need to be doing more things. I think this is a good situation, but I agree with the restrictions.
Sir?
I'm all for it as long as there is some, or the scope is narrowed.
Very pleased with what you said, and I feel by just being around you just this short time that you're willing to, this is not in concrete, it's very movable, and it's probably going to take a few nights to
Trial and
kind
error.
of see what works, but
It's definitely a pilot on our part as well. We wanted to see if, what we could do to increase traffic as well as get our market, going on an alternate night or day other than Saturday. So definitely flexible.
okay.
Very good. Any other questions, concerns, comments on our new motion that adds up until 7:30? Seeing none, vote please.
Stevens?
Yes?
Shannon?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Shannon? I'm sorry.
Voted twice?
Yes.
Would that be a yes or a no, right?
Very good. Thank you very much for coming. That helped us out immensely. And I'd like to compliment the entire council on the discussion. I think we worked through subject that needed to be, and I appreciate that. Thank you. On to the next pulled agenda item from the consent agenda is the Bonner Springs Animal Control SPCA contract. Let me see here. We'll go ahead and ask for a staff presentation. I guess we have some information on that.
Billy Knapp, Chief of Police. Before you tonight, we have an updated contract with SPCA. Great Plains SPCA is who we use for services when we take animals into custody, and nobody claims that they go to SPCA for final adoption and those types of services. Currently, the current contract is a little dated that we were operating off of. They contacted us in about March of this year, saying that they're going to raise the rates for the city of Bonner Springs. Consulted with the city manager, and we had meetings with both SPCA and Bonner Animal Rescue to kind of talk about the existing contract and how that was going to work. Our biggest concern was they were wanting to initiate the $90 immediately, and $86 immediately. We expressed concerns being that we were in the middle of a budget year. Our budget's set at a different time than what they were initiating. They agreed to start off and phase in the increase over the course of the remainder of 2018. The issue with what we're currently doing is we kind of have a unique opportunity with Bonner Animal Rescue. They take on approximately 400 animals for us a year. Last year, the department took approximately 176 to Great Plains. So one of the areas of concerns that I've been asked about is Bonner Animal Rescue has some concerns about their longevity in the future. If that happens, Great Plains is our only provider available to us right now currently. A cost would increase very drastically for us, for them to provide all services for us. So future consideration will have to occur. The rate that they're asking for is not out of the ordinary. Other agencies are paying a lot more than this. And for the services we're getting, most agencies, they provide all service, including vet care and those types of things. For a number for you to understand, if Bonner Animal Rescue is to fold and we had to go with them solely, we're looking at an increase to about $125,000 based on last year's number. And we're currently budgeting approximately $7,500. So it is something we'll have to consider going forward, and the action, future considerations will need to be made, and we'll have to work through those moving ahead.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Seeing as such, I would go ahead and entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the agreement with Great Plains SPCA and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Second.
Take your pick, either one, and we'll start down here this time. Any additional comments, questions, concerns?
No, I appreciate the information that Chief Knapp supplied us. That's when I first read that letter, it almost sounded a little bit, I hate to say this, extortionist ultimatum, but I think Chief Knapp did a great job of putting it in better context for us, so I appreciate that.
No question.
Other than the Great Plains SPCA, are there other vendors that provide this kind of service in our?
Probably not. There's some other larger agencies that have services, but I don't know if they're even willing to take on our volume of animals we're taking.
The Unified Government.
They use the Kansas City Humane Society, and they told us that they're too full with the animals from Kansas City, Kansas, that they can't support us. We talked to Unleashed Pet Rescue, we're too big for them. Bonner Animal Rescue's kind of been a unique provider for us, and a great opportunity for us, but we definitely do have to consider their concerns with longevity and being able to sustain themselves going forward. And if we lose that, it would be the equation of putting 400 animals at Compton Middleton and then we're going to have to do it.
All right. I was under the impression there's some other opportunities in Johnson County also.
Lenexa and some of those agencies, they're all using Great Plains as full service providers.
Service providers, and I would imagine the prices are all over the board.
It's pretty significant when they take on all services.
And the Humane Society of Kansas City in Kansas City, Kansas charges Kansas City, Kansas something. Is it comparable to this?
You know, they didn't give us an amount. They just basically told us that based on the volume they get from Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, they couldn't support anything from us.
So about 150 of ours are going to SPCA now, and about 400 of ours are going to the Bonner Animal Rescue.
Last year, we took 176 animals to to SPCA. Bonner Animal Rescue took approximately 400 in, and that doesn't include the ones we were able to return.
So, and plus the ones you were able to return. So that 400, what's the difference between the 400 and the 135 that went to the SPCA? They were just full of Bonner Animal Rescue?
Or if they don't have the ability to adopt them out or something like that. Once we hold them for 7 days per ordinance, and then after that, they go for final adoption to SPCA.
And who holds them for 7 days?
Usually Bonner Animal Rescue.
And on contract with us?
An agreement with us.
An agreement with us. And, but that's separate from the local veterinarians?
It's kind of all meshed together.
Okay.
I would tell you, there's not really anything formal. And probably something I would recommend further consideration in the future to establish that. There's some concerns about the longevity of the vet care in the community and what they're wanting to continue to sustain. You know, everybody's getting to the point they want to retire. At that point, you know, it's going to be our problem to deal with, and we're going to have to make some decisions on what we're going to do and what we're going to do.
You're still actively looking for an animal control officer?
We have one conditional offer out right now, and I haven't heard back yet whether she's willing to accept or not.
Do they have their own kennel they'd like to? Very good. Ma'am?
No, you've answered all the questions. That's what I was going to ask about the control officer.
Sir?
Yeah, what does Bonner Rescue, do we pay them anything or subsidize them somehow, or is it just purely volunteer?
I'm not sure. I think there was some previous agreements that they would help. They get a lot of donation money, and that they were going to provide so much per animal that we take to SPCA. That's never happened in my knowledge. That was never finalized. That's part of it. There's no agreement to do that, to help supplement that. It's kind of just been one of those things that the city of Bonner Springs has been really fortunate to have an organization in the community that's willing to take on all these animals and take on the responsibility. I can tell you from most cities, especially the other ones I've worked at, all those animals would be the responsibility of the city to deal with and manage and fund. Animal calls are generally your highest volume of calls in a community. So again, just, if you will, imagine how much more of a problem that would be for providing a resource for a number of animals in our community.
Very good. No. Sir? Nothing. Seeing no other questions, concerns, comments?
Just one additional
please.
question.
Yes, seeing one.
Unless I missed something along the line, Chief, the 400-plus animals, is that kind of in par with the norm for most communities of our size, or?
It's difficult to say that, you know, I hear that a lot, a community our size, and as I've said, you know, we want to be a small community and we function like a small community, but in a lot of ways, we're getting to that point where we can't consider ourselves small, but we're not
Big.
next step either.
We're in the
But our problem's getting too big for just
perfect middle ground.
to consider ourselves small. If I recall correctly, my last agency, we did about 1,300 animals a year, so it's a little bit smaller than us, but about the same amount. It's just, animals are generally a driving.
So it's not out of the norm, the number of animals we're seeing?
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, vote please.
Steven?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And I wonder if that will make TV5 also. Saw that on 4? No,
4,
4.
yeah.
That was 5.
Shove the water.
On to the regular meeting agenda, the first item, which is also, again, with our police department, the records management purchase, server purchase, and Regis direct connection. Staff?
Bill Knapp, Chief of Police, before you tonight is a recommendation to move forward with the purchase of the Interpol RMS software system, as well as servers to house that information and a Regis connection, direct connection with Regis. As you'll remember, we presented to council with a request to submit for request for proposals for prospective providers. We had two companies that responded to that request for proposals. I've met with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. There's actually only 7 entities in the entire state that can meet the needs of the state as it exists today. Only one of them is what they call certified, which means that they can electronically submit data to the state, and that is Interpol RMS. Today, there's 131 Kansas agencies using Interpol. I have experience personally with using them. It's a very good system. It's very simple. It's very easy, which is really where we need to be to make sure we're getting an accurate submission. With that, we have to buy servers. Currently, right now, based in the New World product, the servers are basically a KCK. I was part of that project. We paid for them to buy servers, and they're being maintained and housed by them. They're not ours, so to speak. It was part of the cooperative purchase. And with that, we also lose our Regis connection, which is important with our court system. Part of the New World product, we went to Regis Court at the same time. That Regis connection we need to keep live. Currently, we do it through KCK. And we need to keep that connection live so we can continue to facilitate information to and from the Regis Court software as it exists today.
Very good. Is that it? Very good. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to execute the Interpol RMS contract for the amount not to exceed $43,136. Server system from Link Life Networking Incorporated for the amount not to exceed $13,735. And direct access Regis connection for the amount not to exceed $4,429.
So moved
Second.
and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments, and we'll start down here with Mr. Shannon. Sir, Mr. Mackey?
I don't remember the meeting that we had with you. Was that a closed session meeting or was that open? I don't honestly remember.
Workshop.
The workshop. Okay, so that was open knowledge, what we were talking about. Where do we sit with our current contract on that?
We owe 1 more year of maintenance currently. I've been in conversations with the world. It's kind of the same thing we discussed. The conversation kind of surrounded, we built this system to KCK standards and you're responsible for paying for it. And so we do have 1 year of remaining maintenance with the New World product.
Okay, so we'll be just paying to finish out that contract, but then acquiring this new system that's purely our own?
Correct.
Okay.
We have a meeting scheduled with the Mayor Alvey as well as our Unified Government representatives next week. Sean and I do. So we'll be discussing this.
Okay, that's what I was curious. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ma'am?
You explained so very well. Thank you.
Sir?
The Interpol RMS, that's strictly for the software, correct?
It's the record management system.
And it'll interface currently with the equipment we do have in the vehicles? And is there at some point in time, are we going to need to look at addressing those? He doesn't want to give them more of an answer than just correct.
I would tell you we should have already probably replaced those. To give you an idea, it's about $3,000 a tablet. We have 30 tablets currently, so that's about $90,000. If we have to address the mounts, which is why we, part of the CIP I'm submitting for the 2019 budget kind of talks about the reasons why you have to replace them all at one time if you're going to replace them. We made some recommendations to reduce the numbers. But to continue on the path that we are, it's about $90,000 in hardware costs just for the tablets, and then approximately $4,000 for each mount in the car. So that number's going to keep continuing.
We should be fine through the course of this year, and I assume that'll be addressed in the budget sessions coming up for next year. Okay.
Should we be worried or concerned about not having any warranty with this?
They provide a maintenance as part of that, and ongoing maintenance and support, just similar to what the New World product is. My experience with them is they're very easy to work with. The other benefit to us owning our own data and owning our own system is we control it, we manage it. We can change it if we need to make it work for us.
Who manages that?
Interpol RMS.
Our data that we own?
We do. We'll house our own servers. They'll be backed up by us as well as through Interpol. They do an off-site backup as well.
Is that something we're trained in? Like, we already know how to do all that work?
We have the IT like networking. He has experience working with Interpol as well, so yes. Pretty much the data. The benefit to Interpol is we're also using Clear, which is a Kansas law enforcement reporting software. That's something that's free to the officers. So as long as you have the files, you can open it, you can search it, you can do all those types of things. And that's part of the reason just using something simple. It just makes it really easy for us to be able to extract or manipulate the data.
So
It's
you,
not proprietary.
Interpol is proprietary, and you pay, basically you're paying for the software to use.
dedicated software.
Do we have liability or responsibility for how we store that data that we hold or own, or? I mean,
The liability comes from, we have to be able to reproduce it. Just as we do, if you will come to the police station now, we have an entire mezzanine full of records. We have to be able to search that and reproduce it for certain amounts of time to meet the Kansas Open Records request. Some of those cases are for life. We'll keep them forever. Other one can purge out. The other benefit to an electronic system is we can purge out the data. Most law enforcement records, if you go to any training, they say the best record is the one you don't have. So when that time comes, you need to be able to also purge that out.
Very good. And so most of the IT updating and all that will contract through LinkLight and all this vendor.
Correct.
That will do a lot of our training and the server maintenance and that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Very good. Other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, vote please.
Shannon?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd imagine this will help with some of the morale. If I was a police officer, it would help me.
Definitely. And also help with crime stats.
But we don't need crime in Bonner Springs.
As long as those stats go down.
Yeah.
Let's just vote against it.
We'll make a motion. Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate it greatly, and this is, I appreciate your extra effort.
Just kind of curious, what do you actually mean by that with the crime stats?
Anytime you want to apply for grant funding, you require your Part 1 grant for crime stats. Right now, currently on the New World system, we can't reproduce those at all. So if I was to apply for a competitive grant, they would immediately deny us for crime stats. Because we don't have them.
It's like the online resources that report that kind of thing. What are they using to currently report Bonner? Because I know it puts us in a very negative light on the real estate.
Bonner hasn't reported in several years.
So it's old.
Oh, so
Our crime stats right now are about a 9. They traditionally run about a 40. So we're like, on paper, as safe as some small cities, but it's not truly accurate. And another entities using the city uses the crime stat numbers to help sell the city and
Of course.
those types of things. Realtors use them when they're talking about neighborhood.
yeah, and on the development side. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
On to our regular meeting agenda item number 2, pool sandblasting repairs and a paint project. Staff?
Skip Dobbs, Parks and Recreation. In March, the city contracted with DEM Enterprises to sandblast, repair, and paint the aquatic park. And on April the 5th, we did a change order. When the contractor was out there, he noticed that there was caulk missing between the stainless steel gutters and the gunite all the way around. So, and a lot of it was old. And so anyway, we did a change order to replace all that. He pulled it all out and replaced it for $3,900. And then on April the 17th, since he had 95% of the contract completed, we issued a check to DEM for $68,833.20. And then on April the 20th, we had another change order. We had power washed the deck. I don't know if you remember, it's called the Eye, and it's the area where the ground spray, water come out of the ground and spray over in a little kiddie area around the spray feature. When that was sandblasted, Justine had that sandblasted extra, and it was all pitted and needed to be resurfaced so that it was smooth but not too smooth, that people would slip. So we did a change order for that for $695. So you can see down at the bottom under the financial impact that you can follow the contract, the change orders, and how much payment we've made. Leaves $8,218.72 to pay for them. Obviously, all the work has been completed because the pool is open and water's in it and kids and
People in it.
out there playing.
Saw the picture.
Request that you approve the change orders and make final payment.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept change order number 1 of the aquatic park sandblasting, repair, paint project, and make final approval of $8,218.72 to the DEM Enterprises LLC.
Second.
Very good. Should that also include change order 2?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the 6th.
That one's low enough. All right. You had the final amount, right? So, very good. So moved
Yes, it will.
and seconded. Very good. Questions, concerns, comments? And I think it's our turn to start down here. Sir?
No.
See, and you might claim it's the weather, but see, just painting this pool, look at the turnout you had. Good job.
All it requires.
Nothing further here.
Very good. Seeing nothing else, vote please.
Thompson?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Gibb?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. On to regular meeting agenda item 3, our Loring interlocal agreement. Staff?
This is a interlocal cooperation agreement that the city has had with unified government since about 1996. It's actually expired at the beginning of this year. So this is to basically reinstate the Loring service area agreement, which covers 2 things in particular: street maintenance or right-of-way maintenance primarily, as well as emergency services. Those are 2 broken out items if you have the agreement in front of you. The one thing that I will note that has been omitted from this agreement, but it was in previous ones, is it had term capital improvements in it, which is somewhat undefined, which can include things like bridges and culverts. And you can see how this can become very expensive. So that has been taken out. The hope is to have a new agreement put back into place at the end of this year. This agreement runs through the end of 2018. But again, would probably be very similar to this, but has yet to be totally defined as far as what the unified government is willing to do, and obviously what the city of Bonner Springs is willing to do. But again, this extends the typical Loring interlocal agreement for the year 2018.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, concerns, comments? We need to entertain a motion. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve an interlocal agreement with the UG for Loring Services pending approval by the UG on May 31st, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? We'll start down here with Councilman Reeves. Nothing?
Addition?
Which side were you referring to? Who removed what?
I requested that the capital improvement verbiage was removed.
Okay.
Especially given the issue that we had on Riverview, the expense that was related to that. Again, this contract is over 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody, for the most part, is still on staff anywhere. This agreement was first put together, so it needs to have a new set of eyes look at it. And obviously, it would have been nice to have this looked at prior to its expiration, but it wasn't. Right now, we aren't performing any services in the mooring area, and we haven't for the last couple of weeks, which this was a couple months actually. So this is needed for us to go back out there and start to do any right-of-way maintenance to provide any police services out in that area. But to answer your question directly, I made the request for that to be removed.
Okay, appreciate that clarification.
Anything else? I had a question. These two figures are, where have they come from? Just, that was in the last agreement, so it's kind of arbitrary?
Well, I don't know how they were arrived at originally. The number has fluctuated, has increased year to year to year. You'll see, and it's the same way in this agreement, that it's tied to either CPI or the total amount of assessed value change in the county. So that those numbers are reflective of the change that would have occurred if this agreement wouldn't have lapsed. So from its origin, I don't know where the actual numbers come from.
Very good. Prior to the next agreement, we might try and figure out what our actual expenses or costs are, as well as for the maintenance, but also for the services, emergency services. And when you have information on that, I'd appreciate it. Other than that, no other questions, concerns? Vote, please.
Stevens?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Kip?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Reeves?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Very good. On to the reports in our new way of doing things. The first report is the city manager's report.
Just a few quick things. If you have driven down Shiley and looked over at the cemetery, you will notice the pavilion has been installed, so that is complete. There was a ribbon cutting on Monday following the Memorial Day service there to dedicate that. Certainly, I think a welcome addition to that site. Certainly thank the volunteers and everybody that contributed to that improvement. Also want to point out that I have included and hope to continue to include the Wyandotte Economic Development Council's investor report. This is something that's given out to investors of Wyandotte Economic Development, of which the city of Bonner Springs is. You can kind of see some of the projects that are going on in the county across different jurisdictions. Again, just from a reference standpoint, good information to have. You'll also note several events that are coming up. Obviously, the summertime is fast approaching, so there'll be many things going on. One thing that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting was the city band concert. That's starting on Thursday, June 7th. And then also wanted to point out, I think this was distributed to everybody, for those at home that are tuning in on YouTube or otherwise, the attendance at the pool was got the highest it's been since opening year.
Yes, sir.
So on Saturday, we had a little over 430 people. Sunday, we did to 380, which is still quite significant. And on Monday, we had a high water mark, no pun intended, 767 folks that went through the Aquatic Center. So it's great to see so many people taking part in that community asset. But with that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Moving right along to city council items, and I believe we'll start down here next.
Nothing.
Sir?
There is I don't know if it's a water main break or what, but there's some like major leak on the 400 block of Shiley. I was over there today when one of the neighbors was pointing it out to me.
400 block of Shiley. Very good. Yes.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Really good job on the memorial ceremony yesterday. That was a great ceremony. Thank you all.
And that was exactly what I was going to say. It was wonderful. And the cutting of the ribbon with those scissors that are this long just amused me so much. Somebody makes scissors just for ribbon cutting ceremonies. Jeez.
You have to keep your fingers out of the way of those. Sure.
Keep bragging on the Parks and Recs overachievement. The Camp Great Adventures began today with 104 enrolled, and that was more than they did all of last year. So love to see those programs and the marketing behind them working and bringing more people to our community. Also, thank Chief Knapp for bringing out the radar and speed check machine, even though it's broken now, I guess. It worked wonderfully and helped provide a little people at 15 miles an hour, and Lake of the Forest is not very fast. So. That's it.
Nothing additional.
One small point, I guess, after Memorial Day up there, which went so well at the cemetery, I guess today there was some people that had some of their plantings and so forth disturbed. I think we were allowed a week after that before those were gone. I don't think it was anything the city did, but I think there was people up there mowing, not mowing, but trimming. Maybe they shouldn't be trimming the day after. Okay, that's the only thing I can say there. I don't know.
Pretty good. I hadn't heard that part yet. Gosh, something that came up at the cemetery I hadn't heard about. Anything else? Sir? Is that all?
I'm done.
Okay, very good. Didn't catch the done part. Very good. As far as the mayor's report, as I alluded to earlier, Sean and Amber have scheduled a meeting with Commissioner Burrows and Commissioner Walters and Mayor Alvey. And we'll be discussing this RMS project, which will be the main agenda on that meeting. Also, I've been asked by the Garden Club to recognize their National Garden Club Week, which is coming up next week, and I'll be presenting a proclamation for them, as well as at the Chamber. I'm sure this is not secret, but at the next Chamber Business Appreciation meeting, Wagner's Classic Cars has been in business for 50 years, and we'll be recognizing them from the city with a proclamation. So I'm honored to bring that. Other than that, I only have one shameless plug left, similar to the concerns with the band concert. Hopefully, spaghetti makes everyone's appetite for ice cream socials much better. But the Bonner Springs Lions Club and Perky's Catering is having a spaghetti dinner from 5 to 7:30 next Thursday, June 7th, before the first band concert of the season.
Wow, it's going to be busy then.
It's $8 all you can eat at the Harrington Family Event Center. So please spread the word, and they'll be getting that out through the media outlets. And other than that, unless you have any questions for me, we're adjourned.